going on, everybody? And thanks for joining me again. It's another fun Friday. Thanks for joining me. Technically, it's Thursday today, but we're going to try to keep it consistent from now on, moving forward. So every Friday, you can count on a new video. It's coming your way. In addition to that, let's get it started. So I got Zach Stritzinger joining me again. Thanks for joining me, Zach.
Thanks again.
Hey, always having fun. So let's we're starting with the headlines, going to Yahoo headlines. The big headline for the day is Antonio Brown. The guy can't stay out of our headlines. So before we move into Antonio Brown, because I see that, and because it's Football Thursday, kicking off the season of the greatness.
100 years.
We'll get to that next. So let's just start off with the Yahoo. There weren't many good Yahoo news articles today. Dorian, I don't even know who Dorian is, but turns out he knocked out the power for 200,000 homes. So I don't know if that's a company, but damn it, Dorian.
Doing it again.
Walmart slashed the prices on a humongous 4K TV. We're not going to talk about it, but you can go check that out too. Some 30-year-old country singer dies. That's heartbreaking. We were talking about that. That's sad. But then there's Antonio Brown. So we'll move on to Antonio Brown. But first, the one article that we will talk about before getting to Antonio Brown is: did the Obama administration commit the biggest accounting fraud in history with student loans? Experts weigh in. So this is an interesting article. Of course, it caught my attention because nobody wants to talk about how bad Obama was anymore because Trump's terrible. So it caught my attention. Let's talk about the article. So the article was talking about, and it's mainly based on a editorial that was released by the Wall Street Journal recently. So the Wall Street Journal editorial recently suggested that the Obama administration pulled off the biggest accounting fraud in history with student loans when eliminating the role of private lenders in the federal student lending market. In 2010, Democrats nationalized the market to help pay for Obamacare, according to the Wall Street Journal. The Congressional Budget Office at the time forecast that eliminating private lenders would save taxpayers $58 billion over 10 years. This estimate was pure fantasy, and now we're seeing how much. The Wall Street Journal op-ed also highlighted rising number of severely delinquent student loans since then and blamed the Obama administration for expanding plans in 2012 for new borrowers to reduce defaults, buy off millennial voters, and disguise the cost of its student loan takeover. There's no way around this. The Wall Street Journal argued that eliminating the private lenders from the student loan market severely hurt Americans, and that by using fair market accounting, it becomes clear that student loans will actually cost taxpayers nearly $307 billion over the next 10 years. So mind you, we were told by the Obama administration this was going to save us $58 billion, and it ended up now it's forecasting $307 billion at least in costs. So Douglas Holtz-Eakin, former director of the Congressional Budget Office during the Obama administration and the George W. Bush administration, talks about how, quote, a widely known deficiency in the Federal Credit and Reform Act is that it does not allow the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, to incorporate market risk in its assessments. So the loans that were evaluated are evaluated as safer than they truly are, and thus the losses are smaller than they may truly be. And there's no way around that. The techniques force you to do that. He also added that's why when they switched from private loans to the government loans, it appears to save money. That is misleading. And I don't, and this, what's his name? Doug Holtz, he agrees that, or he says he doesn't disagree, but it's the CBO's fault. Those are the rules. And we could, Sheila Bair, the chair of the U.S. Federal Deposit Insurance from 2006 to 2011, agreed that the Wall Street Journal was right to call out the government on the accounting issue and stress that it is a huge problem with federal budgeting and the transparency generally. So, wrapping up, if the government chooses to move the whole bunch of loan forgiveness and income-based repayment models, they can't anticipate that, and both of those things bring less money. The money goes out and it doesn't come back, and they're bigger losses this way. So this Holtz-Eakin added that the Obama administration did that on a regular basis. There was nothing the CBO could have done about it. And finally, previously the government guaranteed student loans that borrowers took out from private leaders. Today, it controls more than 90% directly. When the Obama administration got rid of the guarantee program with private sector out of the process and made it direct federal loans, they got rid of all the underwriting and stability. And so, they recreated the worst aspects of the subprime mortgage lending crisis. They gave anyone who walked up a loan without any notion of their capacity to repay. So it looks like we're going to be a real issue, and this is going to be an even bigger issue coming into the 2020 election because it's going to come down to Bernie Sanders or whatever hippie is willing to repay your debts, even though this is a Wall Street Journal's perspective, but this was a governmental crisis brought upon a specific administration. So it's going to be interesting. This is going to be a huge aspect of the 2020 election. And we have a Wall Street Journal, which is a pretty liberal news source, calling out the Obama administration and blaming them for it. That's going to be really interesting. What do you think about it, Zach? Anything?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because it takes the in today's society where everything's I hate Trump. Oh, Trump did this. Oh, the Trump administration sucks. It's funny to see another administration, especially the most recent administration before Trump, be under attack for something. It's definitely, I wouldn't say a good thing to see an administration under attack. But it's interesting to see that, hey, maybe Trump's administration isn't doing everything wrong. Maybe other administrations suck too. Let's remember how some of these stupid things, some of these bad things that the Obama administration did. So from that perspective, I think it's kind of interesting. I'm sure people won't look at it that way. They'll be like, oh, Trump sucks. But,
right.
I think it's a good eye-opener. Remember, Obama did suck a lot, too.
Well, hey, I'm going to... Trump's terrible. Everybody hates him. I get it. But do we need to remind people that there's no president in American history that has committed more human rights violations than Barack Obama and his administration with the unmanned drones? It's funny, I had a professor from college who wouldn't write me a letter of recommendation. He'll argue otherwise, even though he was untouchable and unable to be found. He wouldn't write me a letter of recommendation for law school because during that election I supported Trump. And what's funny is he was this big, he was a huge Democrat, huge liberal. But my senior year of college, he legitimately did a presentation to the university. It was an hour long. I loved it. And it was all about the human rights violations that Obama specifically committed with unmanned drone killings. And it was great. I mean, anybody out there, I totally suggest you just do a small dive and you'll probably go down the rabbit hole to Alice in Wonderland and you will find all of the the number will blow your mind. When you start going down that rabbit hole, it's going to be crazy seeing how this guy is again, listen, get my straitjacket ready. I understand I'm crazy. But here I am, the crazy psycho conspiracist that thinks that all these people are in cahoots together. If you don't think Trump and Hillary are friends, you're missing the boat here, people. But I think if you don't think Obama was terrible, absolutely terrible, and it was strategy to distract us from his terribleness to bring us the most terror ever, or you could put in Hillary. We were given a choice as American public. You could bring in the worst choice ever, and we'll make your life a living hell for 4 years. Or you could put our war criminal in, Hillary Clinton, and we'll be happy. We'll be happy. We've played you guys as we have for years. And so it's just interesting, if you don't think Trump's a distraction from Obama, you're missing it. If you don't think Trump and Hillary were on the same team, you're missing it. But again, it's interesting to look at the student loan thing because we are going to see that be the biggest topic. That, everybody, Yang Gang, Andrew Yang's probably him and Bernie will probably be the leading candidates for the Democrats. And Yang's thing is, he's not as big on the student loan debt as much as he is on universal basic income. Again, something else I'm not the biggest fan of. I'll happily, as a United States citizen, I'll happily take $12,000 for free. At the same time, it is not an advantageous plan. So I don't want to get into those things, but this is going to be a huge topic that we talk about. And to have the Wall Street Journal say that this was propped up by the Obama administration is extremely interesting. Is it true? Like this article discusses, the experts disagree on who exactly to blame. But we can definitely pin it down to this time period when this big boom came, and now everybody's calling for forgiveness. I don't know what to do about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to definitely be a big point moving forward. I mean, definitely, it's like that's all we hear about going the last election. This election is Bernie Sanders and I'm going to make you not pay loan, or I'm going to get you to not pay loans. That was one of his big things. And like all the people are like, oh, this is communism. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's going to definitely be a big divide there. I don't know if Bernie Sanders will even get the nomination. I doubt he will. I don't know who will. Right. But I think he's going to use this to his advantage, but I don't think it's going to move him much forward. I think it's his supporters are there, and I don't think he's going to gain much more because it's like kind of like a niche kind of like ideology or whatever. It's like if you like socialism, then there you go. But I mean, it's real extreme in my opinion. It's not
right.
It's definitely not a run of the mill ideology. So it's kind of like out there, and I don't know. I personally don't agree with it. So
right. Well, hey, before I make my comment. So we got a pizza here. I feel obligated to discuss that we're about to eat pizza. So I have this Red Baron pizza. It was $4. No, we're not sponsored. These guys, hook me up if there's sponsors out here willing to give me pizza. But Zach already had a slice. But do you want to just what do you think? One bite, everyone knows the rules, I guess. For a $4 pizza from Giant, it's not good.
It ain't no Mama Celeste, but
It is no good. But it's also not bad. So, we're going to keep it quiet. We're not going to be munching in the microphone. Kemp, that's to you. You munch in the microphone. It's gross. But, moving on from that, okay, so my point that I wanted to talk about, I agree with everything you said, but I'm sitting in sales and leases now, right? That's this semester. You're in it for the first time as well. Different professor, same class. So, the one thing that's been a prick in my back for a while now, and my attitude has changed, but initially, I had a real issue with these electronic exceptions to the terms, right? So you pull up your iTunes, you plug in your phone, you do anything, and iTunes goes, do you agree? Before you get to listen to, the Black Eyed Peas, first, you have to agree to our terms. And of course, everybody goes, click, I agree. And I think South Park nailed it. That's why I've always held this, the human centipad. I think South Park nailed it because they made a joke in an episode about how everybody clicks, I agree to the iTunes thing. And what they didn't realize is in the fine print of the I agree to the iTunes terms and agreements is in the fine print it said, I agree to be a part of the human centipad, which, if anybody knows the human centipede, the movie, or what an iPad is, all it was 3 people sewn together like the human centipede, or whatever, and the person in the front had an iPad taped to their forehead.
Classic film.
Classic film. And then also, do you want to talk about that? That is one of the grossest movies
I've
ever.
seen all 3 of them.
I quit halfway through the second one because I got sick and tired of seeing, there were 12 people sewn together. One of them was pregnant. It was
the third one's a whole prison. They take an entire, supermax jail and sew all the prisoners together. It's not as weird as the other ones because the centipede doesn't show up until, the last half hour, but...
That's
the first
gross.
2 are where it's at.
Well, the first one's disgusting. The funny thing is you have 3 people sewn together, mouth to butt. First person eats for the track for all of them, because the theory of the movie is your poop doesn't become poisonous until the third person. So, it was supposed to be one giant person, and what's crazy is the back person got killed at the end of the movie, got shot, and the guy at the front, he's the leader of the gang. He's in charge. He's the one that's supposed to be propping everybody up. He straight up takes a piece of glass and cuts his throat. So this poor girl, it ends the movie with this poor person literally strapped in the middle, sewn to 2 dead people. Or wait, sewn to a dead person and a dead person sewn to her. Gross, gross, gross. I don't even know why I brought this up in the podcast. We shouldn't have been talking about the Human Centipede, but we did. It's a dumb movie. If you want to laugh, go watch it, but don't go watch it.
Yeah, and the thing that I always remember people quoting from when I was in high school was they'd be like, Rapno, the rape drug. And I'm like, okay. That was the one thing that always stuck out, but I don't know.
So the South Park episode is about the Human Centipede, and you agreed to be a part of it because you just clicked I agree on the iTunes terms and agreements. So I've been sitting in sales and leases, and I've been having a real issue. I have held, before this class, so 2 years in law school, I held the position of I would love to be a piece of the change that sets a precedent in the future, being a part of the lawyers that set the precedent through these trials, that these are not valid contracts. Right? I had Morangelo, my professor, at the front of the room talking about how the majority of these electronic contracts are with children. Facebook, Instagram. So how come we could go, you can't make a contract until you're at least 18 because you don't have the capacity to understand or make those agreements until you're 18. But because these are billion-dollar companies, these contracts are valid. Same thing goes for these student freaking loans, man. They come to an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and look at them and go, so maybe 50% of them, 60% of them are 18. But at least 40% of them are 17, right, about to go to college. I'm going to backpedal. I guarantee the vast majority of them, when they apply for those government student loans, are probably under 18. So how come you can't make a contract with Amazon Prime for, I don't know, anything? You cannot make a contract until you're 18, but the government can hold you accountable. So one, there's a default there. But two, I just feel like there's the vast majority of America's retarded. So they're not going to sit there and read these things, let alone understand them. And I can tell you as somebody who is in law school, I've never read those things, right? I have an agenda.
They're
I need to get
pages and pages long, like no one reads them.
And it's on purpose. So what did we learn? One thing that I learned in sales and leases very recently was the courts have set a precedent in the difference between I agree statements where you just click the box and move forward, and ones where you have to scroll through them all to get to the bottom to hit I accept. That if you have to scroll past it all, you had the ability to see it and you are legally held accountable. I understand the court's perspectives of contracts and how we are trying to stay out of this. These are just between consumers, and we want to uphold contracts where we can. I get that, but I very much for the longest time felt that there is a real issue with these types of agreements and that they shouldn't be valid. But man, when you read about precedents and law set, it's almost impossible that these are not contracts. What do you think about that? Do you think we're ever going to be able to escape these? Because right now, iTunes could have put that in the fine print that I'm about to be a centipede, and I have no idea. And I'll be held accountable.
I think most of those are just like boilerplate like type things. So I don't know if it's that much. I mean the ones that it's like you go on a website, it's like, do you agree to the terms of this website or whatever? Most of them are boilerplate and doesn't really mean anything. It's just like, hey, whatever, this is generic. This covers our butt and that's it. So a lot of them are just kind of fluff to begin with. It's just like I'm gonna protect my butt here. So I don't think they're actually the biggest issue. The human centipede thing was obviously like a satire, because people are blindly doing it without understanding what they are.
But do you do it blindly? You gotta concede.
Because I don't think there's that much of a...
Well, you're not signing
Most of them aren't going to come back to you. You're not buying a house, or you're not...
Well, you're not signing away your house. You're not signing away your mouth to be sewn to someone's butt. But at the same time, we also don't have a clue of how severe it could be.
So it's creating this like this mindless culture or whatever.
Right.
But the ones, like, a lot of them are useless, but one day someone's going to sign one.
It's going to be really impactful. So if that's the case, but like you said, I really want to make a legal argument that if it's become such human nature to mindlessly accept, that means that is not a real exception to the terms. Yeah. Do you agree or disagree? Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll ever see that precedent set? I don't. Because I feel like where the law stands in terms of contracts, they'll never just throw it out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just like, at this point, it's just so ingrained into everything, and I don't know if there's much you can do about it anymore, because everyone does it. There's no one that doesn't
But
do it.
that point you just said only enforces that they shouldn't be valid contracts, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them aren't holding out, like, a lot of... Like, yeah, it's like you're not signing your house away, so a lot of them aren't... Like, most people aren't going to ever bring that to court, so, I mean, I don't know if they're much of anything. It's more of like, will you do this for me? Yeah, sure, whatever. It's kind of like, whatever. I mean, if you end up breaking it, I mean, like, you probably did something really screwed up anyways, so they're kind of generic anyways. I mean, like, if you know... So, like, on Facebook or whatever, you agree to that. You know you're doing something wrong if, like... you know you're doing it wrong. Like, if you're posting, like, a nude photo, you're like, obviously I'm an idiot and I'm doing something wrong. So, I mean, it's kind of like the idea that, like, those agreements are sort of like they're, like... You already know what you're accessing. You know what you shouldn't do. It's
Wait.
To cover everyone.
But what you're talking... Okay, so now we're talking about two different things, right? So, like, Twitter kind of hides their user agreements. And so they kind of keep... And they also purposely make it very ambiguous. So they can... And there's been so much... I'm not about to get into this because, one, it's going to look bad to anybody that isn't conservative. But also, it's not a conversation I want to get into. But there's very legitimate... You could look it up on how Twitter purposefully... like, severely bans conservatives before liberals, right? Like, somebody can hold a dead head of the president covered in blood, but if somebody tweets, learn to code, you're banned? Because there was, like, a hashtag learn to code, and they banned everybody that put that hashtag. And all it was a movement to argue about how, you know, Andrew Yang's talking about how the animation or automation and AI is going to take over the trucking industry, and how we're going to need all of these new people that really aren't the most educated. We're going to have to teach them how to code because that's where the future is going. So it was hashtag learn how to code. It was a political movement or whatever, something to spark conversation, and instead Twitter just sat there and banned anybody. So there's this conservative side to it. When people try to call them out, they go, whoa, it's our terms of agreements. And they make it purposely ambiguous, so they're the judge, and they're just kicking people out. The pushback to this whole situation is you monopolized a form of communication, right? Like the telephone. Right now, the telephone isn't monopolized. You're an Android, I'm an iPhone, and somebody else is a Google Plus, right? So all of these people can go seek out other forms of media. However, when it comes to social media, there's monopolies. There's Facebook, but there's nothing competing with Facebook. There's Twitter. Twitter's ain't compete. They're different. Twitter's its own entity. So you don't have Facebook or Twitter. You have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. You know, whatever it is. So these social medias aren't really competitors, and then they become such an inherent way of life and existence that you essentially can't go without them. So there's kind of this, you know, why can these guys pigeonhole a regular civilian the way they're able to? Again, to your point, there's nothing dangerous in those user agreements yet. So nothing will come of it. But what happens, so Sony, way back when, this was years ago, years ago, less than a decade, but sooner than that, but a while ago, Sony got in big trouble for illegally selling all of their users' private information. And they got it. The government slapped them on the wrist, said, don't do that again. And they're like, oops, sorry. So they made a butt ton on other people's private information. And they weren't held accountable for it. And that was legitimately breaking the user agreement. So what happens when it's just a part of the user agreement, you don't know it? I mean, legitimately right now, Facebook, simply because you're a user and you have the app, is tracking everywhere you go, 100% of the time. You may not even have it on, and you drive to the post office, you go get your grocery stores, then you go to class. It has a documentation of your exact daily routine, so then it could go and say, well, he goes to the post office a lot. Let's start giving them ads to the post office. And that way they're able to manipulate you in those directions. I didn't sign up for that. Now, the law expert's going to go, well, then just don't have Facebook. But is it really possible to choose something other than Facebook in today's modern world? I don't think so. And that's why we really get screwed when Congress is sitting there questioning Mark Zuckerberg, and they don't even know what the hell the internet is, right? So we've got these old coops that need to be punted the hell out of there because they're sitting there going, can you explain to me what a like is? Like they're so lost in orbit that it screws the real people that know what they're talking about and want to get to the issue. And so Mark Zuckerberg gets to look like an alien and just sip his water and snake right out of it. And then also it's an issue where right now there's no government regulation on these social medias. So you have all these people going, you have the government going, hey, we're gonna pull back. You guys do whatever the hell you want. Make money where you can find it. Screw these people's private information, whatever. But you are gonna be an arm of the CIA or the FBI. You know, they're not literally the CIA, but anytime the government looks at Facebook and asks them to bend over backwards or do X, Y, and Z, Twitter, they do it in a heartbeat. Because right now there's no government regulation, and they want to keep it that way. So, hey man, we'll do whatever you ask, because really it doesn't cost us anything and we don't care, insofar as you stay off our back. So the government isn't involved at all. You got these people who control human lives. There's a whole documentary on Netflix about how Facebook and Google hijacked the election. Just recently it came out how Google literally stole 2 million votes to Hillary Clinton. And these are it's all coming out of the woodworking. Now I'm just rambling and I hate it. But there's so much to this, right? You have these entities literally control human attitudes, and they're doing tests and experiments on the users, and they don't have to release the information. It came out that Facebook did all these studies on their interaction with humans and learned that if we piss you off and upset you, make you miserable, you use our app and our platform more. So Facebook, in their algorithm now, purposely makes you miserable. Getting rid of Facebook was the greatest thing for my mental health, and I didn't realize why. And then I read this, to come to find out that Facebook's purposely making you miserable because it keeps you using it and keeps the user activity up. So here's a company making tons of money and then we wonder why suicide rates are up. We wonder why we can blame social media for people's, depression. Why depression's higher than ever. And so, I don't know, we got totally sidetracked. I got totally sidetracked. But it's crazy how deep this rabbit hole goes, and there's no accountability for it. None. Sorry, Zach. What do you think? Anything? I don't know. I just let you run with the baton with that one.
Yeah, not on this.
Yeah, dude. But what sucks is I barely scratched the surface, right? Like, we could talk about this for days. And it's on both sides of the aisle. This is not a liberal conservative thing. It's a government strong-arming you guys. And it's weird. It's crazy. I don't know what to do about it. Personally, coming back to these student loans, because that's how far off track we got, somebody made a perfect point. I listened to an economist go, yes, I agree that there's a lot of kids getting screwed over with these student loans, and it's an issue. But what do you do about the kid who actually prepared all of his finances, budgeted his existence perfectly, and paid off their student loans, right? Like, there's people from very low-income societies and communities that paid off their student loans, right? Do I get pigeonholed because I don't have debt anymore? There's people that literally work their butt offs to get scholarships because they're in the hood and they know they can't get out of it. So they worked so they could afford this. Why do they get punished for paying off their debts? At the end of the day, you signed a contract for a ton of money. This wasn't you signing up for a $2.99 iCloud space on your phone, on your computer. Like, oh, I'm going to expand my iCloud 99 cents. Like, no, this was $100,000. Maybe you should have thought more, right? Mm-hmm. So what is your stance? When we come out on this, what is your stance on this? Forgive the student loans, keep the student loans where they're at, pay your shit off.
I think, it is the pay your shit off thing. I think that, it's a debt you get yourself into. You took the risk. I mean, I have a lot of debt. So I mean, you got to go to school. You got to do that. I mean, it would be great to have money, but the government doesn't have that money to give everyone. They have other things they need to pay for. There's other, you got military spending and other important things for the governmental infrastructure that needs to go around. And I don't think helping every individual in the world with their personal academic adventure is what we need to be spending money on. I mean, that's better for the well-being of every individual, but it's always been the individual's job to propel themselves into the future and to provide for themselves. I don't think that's the government never was involved. I mean, there's the welfare programs, but that's for the people that need it and the people that can't provide for themselves, the people that actually do need the help legitimately. Whereas people, that go to school and are able to go to school, they made a choice, they made a coherent decision, and they should have to go through with their obligations. So I don't think student loans should be forgiven. I mean, maybe to a certain extent. It's like, there are the government programs out there that it's like, if you pay the minimum for 10 years or whatever, and you work for the government, your loans will be forgiven. Something like that is different, and I think that's acceptable. I mean, you did your share. You worked for the government. You pretty much did, you paid the minimum for so many years. You put in most of the money that you took out. So something like that, I think, is more feasible and, meets halfway. So, I mean, something like that, I think, is a
well, and I also
like
agree with you. And the bigger issue is now you've got college degrees that are meaningless. Mm-hmm. Back in the day when our parents were our age, a college degree was the golden ticket. But now, because everybody gets a college degree, the college degree has become a high school degree, where everybody's got it, and now it means nothing. You're working at Avis. The only reason I say Avis is because I had a sociology professor that kept harping. We had an hour class for 4 days a week, and every day he was like, y'all are going to work at Avis. This whole, it was every day America sucks and blah, blah, blah. But he reminded us how you all are going to work at Avis. And it's just funny that, I had a gap year before law school, and getting a job was a real pain because everybody had a college degree and it meant nothing. So if everybody can afford it, and we're going to put the country into $307 billion in debt, how can anybody excel? And then guess what? The graduate program, law school, master's degrees, those become what college was when our parents were our age, which is totally bizarre and wrong and misguided. So thanks, Obama. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so moving on. I think we got two. Sorry, guys. I took us out down the rabbit hole. Went right to Alice in Wonderland. So, moving on. So today's Thursday. This is going to come out on Friday. This is Thursday evening. The game literally starts in 15 minutes, so we got to wrap this up. But it's football season, guys. It's here. It's finally here. You're going to be watching this going, I already know who won and I know how the game went, but I'm sitting here going, I really hope, for some reason, like an idiot, I picked Aaron Rodgers for one of my teams again, so who knows if he'll screw me over? I don't know.
That stash, though. He does have that stash this year.
And that's the power, bro.
The power of the stash.
The power of the stash. So, it'll be interesting, but what's funny is as we're getting excited for this Packers and Bears game, and it's the kickoff of the season.
Of the 100th year of football.
That's what that's for? I kept seeing 100 every time they advertise the NFL, and I'm like, this is a weird. That's where I live. In my realm, I couldn't even compute that. Every time, I just keep seeing 100, and I'm like, yep.
Yeah, that's what the Bears. That's why the Bears and the Packers are playing tonight. It's 99 years of so not 100, but it's one of the most historic rivalries in the NFL, so it just makes sense to have them kick off the game. Because usually they have like the Super Bowl winner kick off the season, but this year, 100 years, do something nostalgic, which I think is pretty interesting.
Oh, that's great.
So.
And it's nothing but something to get excited about. But the sad part is that headline was stolen again by the king, Antonio Brown. So, moving on to our last and final headline.
But as he would like to be called, as we remember from last year, you should refer to him by his preferred name, Mr. Big Chest, as he wanted to be called. So.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't even hear about that.
Last year he was like, oh, I'm Mr. Big Chest, and that's what he was like, you will call me Mr. Big Chest. But that didn't last. That didn't stick. That was when he was in the, the blonde mustache era. So.
Yes, oh my God. Again, you could just tell this is a guy that needs the attention. Literally, he will pass out like not having air if he doesn't have it. But, okay, so around 4 o'clock, the headline from CBS News was, Raiders reportedly planning to suspend Antonio Brown after incident between wide receiver and the GM Mike Mayock. Well, that changed to, now we know that, here's my ad. Ooh. But now we know that, according to Yahoo Sports, more drama, Raiders reportedly did suspend Antonio Brown after the argument with the GM. So what happened? You know more about this than I do. Do you still remember some? Do you want me to refresh?
Yeah, so basically, there's been the Antonio Brown saga for about 2.5 years now. We're now in like the fourth stage, because first it was like the trade me stage, then it was the...
we will... Before we get to the list...
But now we're at the fourth part, which is the... whatever this suspension drama is. It is basically Antonio Brown missed multiple games of training camp. So, a normal person, you miss a day of work, you're going to get in trouble and you're going to get reprimanded for it. Antonio Brown ain't no normal person. He misses a day of work, you don't punish him. So what happened was he missed a couple days of work, training camp, and he got a letter or whatever. It was, you are fined so many thousands of dollars for missing so many days of work, training camp. That don't fly with Antonio Brown. So he posted it on Instagram, and there was an image of his,
you want me to read it to you? Let me read it real quick, if you don't mind. So, Antonio Brown received a letter from the organization. The letter said, Dear Antonio, as you know, you did not participate in the Raiders walkthrough on August 22nd. Your absence from practice was unexcused. Accordingly, you are hereby fined $13,950 pursuant to Article 42, Section 1A, not 8, of the NFL Collective Bargaining Agreement and the Raiders Club Discipline Schedule. You were previously fined $40,000 for missing Raiders preseason training camp on August 18th. Please be advised that you should continue to miss should you continue to miss mandatory team activities, including practices and games, the Raiders reserve the right to impose additional remedies available under the club's discipline schedule, the CBA, and your NFL player contract, including, but not limited to, additional fines and discipline for engaging in conduct detrimental to the club. And that's what they kept emphasizing. The scapegoat, the escape term is conduct detrimental to the club.
So yeah, he posted that exact image on his Instagram, and that kind of caused some controversy. It's it's definitely a shot at an organization. It's like, you fine me for not doing my job. I mean, I understand, like, that's some kind of like psychopathic viewpoint to have, but I do understand, like, from a organization or a company such as the Raiders, for them, you did not obey company policy, team policy. You're going to get punished, and we're going to follow through with our organization policy. And that's basically where this thing started. There was Antonio Brown being butthurt about not doing his job. I don't know how but and the Raiders themselves being like, you're an idiot, do your job. And so I guess last night him and Mike Mayock had some kind of altercation. Antonio Brown tried to swing at him or hit him in some way. And I think the funniest and most ironic part of it all is the man that stopped him from hitting Mike Mayock was Vontaze Burfict, the man that ended Antonio Brown's playoff run back in 2016 by just ramming him into the ground and like utterly destroying him, the man that pulled him back from hitting someone else. I just think it's hysterical. Like, You don't get much more ironic than that, but
Right.
Vontez Burfict pulling back Antonio Brown, but I don't know. But that's where we're at now. He will not play this Sunday, so the future is up in the air. There was a report from Adam Schefter that said he might never play a game with the Raiders, which I would not be surprised or honestly disappointed. The guy is the definition of an ego. There's egos, and then there's Antonio Brown. He has some kind of issue. He wants to be known, and that's what it is. I don't, like I said, I don't know if he knows what he's doing. I think it's, I want attention, and I'm going to get it. And it's, if he sees an opportunity, if he sees an outlet, he's going to strive for it. Like, you had the mustache, now you had the helmet. The helmet's over. He's like, oh, I don't have the helmet thing to go after. What can I do now? Oh, I'll make fun of, getting fined or whatever. So, it's one thing or the other. You think one thing's over, and it's another.
Well, what really stinks is, going through all the things that happened, right? So, he has a ton of issues with the Steelers before he comes to the Raiders. He goes, after, and you have, he points out how he's got issues with First off, Juju he never had issues with, and he just attacks Juju after he leaves. Then he's got issues with Big Ben, but what's funny is...
the main one.
Which is the main one. But what's funny is who comes out looking like the ass of this whole situation, because Big Ben, even if Big Ben was the antagonizer in this whole situation... You're the one making a circus. You're the one that literally cannot control yourself, so it makes him look good.
There was literally a statement a week ago, and I'm not a big Ben fan. I think he has a lot of issues of his own. There's obviously those allegations he had against him years ago. I don't think he's the greatest person. But, that being said, there was a statement a couple weeks ago, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, Ben Roethlisberger said, I don't remember the exact words, but it doesn't matter. He said something along the lines of I was always close with Antonio Brown, or I tried to make things better, or whatever. Something along those lines.
Wait, who said that?
Ben Roethlisberger said this about Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown's response is basically, shut up. And Ben Roethlisberger's, trying to be, the bigger man, and Antonio Brown wants nothing to do with it.
And save face at the least.
Nothing to do with it. He looks like an idiot. You can't just be oh, thank you for the apology, or whatever. No, the guy, egotistical beyond belief. Beyond talented, not gonna argue, but... There's a mental issue.
Right. So he goes after anyone he disagrees with, right? So while he's still on the Steelers team, he's fighting and attacking Big Ben. He's fighting and attacking Juju, all publicly. And then, because of that, he gets traded. As a result, someone like Le'Veon Bell, who's in a somewhat similar position, goes, you know what? I'm going to nut up, shut up, and get to work. Doesn't say a word, doesn't take a headline, is ready to show up and put you people in your place come the beginning of the season. That isn't the route Antonio Brown takes, right? He goes, I still want the... Attention is on me. So he rolls in with his blimp on the first day of Hard Knocks, we all know. Hard Knocks has had this was gross to me because I'm a Browns fan and I always thought the Browns would take the cake. It turns out that the Hard Knocks viewership has been higher than it's ever been. And I think it all has to do with Antonio stealing the limelight. So how much of all of this is because there's the cameras and it's Hard Knocks and literally the spotlight is on him, and how much of it is the limelight is only on him because of it's just being his natural action.
Now, I think that's a valid observation, but kind of another thing that I saw / have been reading is there is this Antonio Brown saga that we're talking about, and since he's on the Raiders, it's mentioned, he's there, but they gloss over it. They don't ever show the real drama building up. So something like last night, the way that what happened last night with Mike Mayock, the way they've been painting Antonio Brown is kind of when the helmet thing comes on, it's we got through it. John Gruden's this is my guy, I support him. So Hard Knocks, even through the entire thing, never painted him as a diva. They always painted him as he's getting his way, he is doing the right thing, and he will be ready to play. So there has actually been, I think, a huge misstep on Hard Knocks, because I think they have footage of Antonio Brown doing crazy things, but they're not showing that because they want to show I don't know what they want to show.
Well,
but
no.
They're
like
trying to.
Dude, I noticed watching last season, Hard Knocks, because it's a television show,
Even though it's on
needs
HBO,
a story, right? Like, it needs to develop some type of line. And you watched how they tell a story about some ass that's not about to be on the team, but because they want to have the heartbreak at the end of the season when they cut him. So they limelight some people who they know ain't going to make it. They also paint a picture just so they could of main players, just so they could have a story. We saw that with Hugh Jackson and everything. So I think you have a very valid point, because we just watched the finale, me and you, before this, of Hard Knocks. And what did we see? We saw, like you said, them painting the picture of like, the coach going, there's my boy, he's back, you ready for a day of hard work? And then what'd they do? They did a montage of badass plays by Antonio Brown by a defense that ain't doing anything, right? Because it's a second scout team. So what's interesting is they did a highlight reel only of one wide receiver to paint that exact picture. But like you said, how many of those... I've been to spring training tons of times. How many of those were shit plays that we didn't get to see? How many of that, so you could see, you already know innately they're twisting the narrative because it's a show. They need to make this theatrics of it all, of a practice. It's literally, anybody out there that's played football and been to a football practice, let me see you make a movie of your practice. And it's either going to be a movie about football practice, or it's literally going to be football practice. They will be two very different stories. It'll be practice where Bill had some good plays and Bill got his ass rocked, or it's going to be this movie where we're trying to tell a story of adversity, of Antonio Brown, not jiving with the team and the coaches, but here he is. So now we have a narrative that we can play out. So I agree with you 100%. More than half of it's phony, and so you can't really draw on it too much. But also, do you not think that because it's the highest ratings, because the cameras are around him right now, that isn't in his head promulgating a lot of this? So we talked about the feet, we talked about the helmet, but we really didn't acknowledge what they are. So now this guy, I'm just trying to paint the timeline. So this guy
the trade was the first part.
Trade was the first part. Animosity with old players, looking like an ass because you can't be the bigger man. Literally, everybody on the Steelers, like the worst, grossest, disgusting toilet paper butt wipe team you could think of, comes out looking amazing.
I do love Juju though.
Juju's great.
He looks like a fun guy.
I'm a fantasy player. I'll always love Juju. I'll always be excited if he's on my team, and in fact, he's on one of mine, and I'm psyched about it. And that's Samuels too. I like him too. But at the same time,
James Conner too. He's a good.
James Conner. Listen. But I hate you. I hate you, Steelers.
The new look Steelers are pretty interesting. I mean, they got Ben. They got Ben, but other than that,
again, my friends.
You went to Miami, so.
And guess what? Every person at Miami, any person that's had an encounter at the Miami University where Ben Roethlisberger is from, has a terrible story about how much you suck, you 16-year-old rapist. So I hope this gets to you. No, we still hate you. I'm from you, man, and the whole university thinks you suck, even though we have a sports stadium named after you. You're a terrible human. No one likes you, you giant sausage. But moving on. Aside from them, you guys, Juju's just a good guy. And my friends back at home don't like how I rip on Baker, but it's only because he's right next to Myles Garrett, who's somebody who's younger than me and is a role model to my existence and all of frickin' Cleveland. So when you got somebody so amazing, you can't help but acknowledge how Juju's the same type of person. Stays out of the bullshit, he's a guy just out there having fun, and he's a good, moral, nice guy. Yeah. And you can't hate him. So when you're coming here and you're making an ass of yourself because you're conflicting with good people, you don't come out looking good. But then, dude, I keep getting sidetracked. So after all of this, he gets traded to the Raiders, and it's time to nut up or shut up. Take a role after Le'Veon and show how great you can be. But instead, you go into the cryo chamber without shoes, and as somebody who's in law school, I know you don't get inside a cryo chamber without surpassing at least 4 signs telling you to wear the sandals we give you. So wear the sandals we'll give you so you don't freeze your feet off. Then he freezes his feet off.
Show us the gross feet.
And we see it for 4 or 5 days straight. We've talked about that
all
enough.
over Instagram.
All over. And then it's posed like it's from how well he works, how hard he works. It's like, no, it's because he had frostbite.
He said
and froze
they gave
his
him
feet.
he's like, they gave him the wrong shoes. It wasn't his fault. Like,
What isn't his fault?
Whatever.
So we have the feet fiat. I mean, now it's like a sprint course. Everything happens back to back to back to back. Like nothing ends. So then we have the feet thing. Then we move on to the helmet thing. The NFL, because of if you've watched any of our past podcasts, the NFL's been struggling with CTE issues. So they've mandated the safest level of helmets, and you get to choose from this spectrum of helmets. And they threw out one of the helmets that him and Tom Brady liked, and Tom Brady shut up, picked one of the helmets that he had a choice from and moved on. But, again, I totally will respect Antonio Brown's animosity towards a helmet forced upon him if he's saying it restricts his vision. If he's had a wider range of vision, made him as good as he was, and now you're restricting... That's pretty dangerous, dude, restricting someone's vision like that, if that's the case. At the end of the day, I've said millions of times, I think the NFL should use this as an opportunity to neglect any liability towards CTE and go, fine, pick your fucking helmet, I don't care. I wish they would do that. That isn't going to be the case. So moving on from that, we have this stupid helmet thing. He's picking and choosing. What should I do? He gets a helmet. I don't like it. Like a child. And so we've been going back and forth. Finally, this last episode, he gets a Power Ranger helmet that looks like a Lambo truck, and he's willing to stick with it. So finally, we got a helmet that works for him that looks like he's a box
Yeah, that's
head.
after the second grievance, because he filed 2 grievances. The first one he lost. Second one he lost, and so he's like, whatever, I'll shut up. But, I don't know. I mean, now we're here.
Well, no. And then we have the preseason. It was the first preseason football game, and this is when headline... So then you got to wonder how much of this is Antonio Brown's strategy to keep his name relevant and build a brand around himself. So you've got the first preseason game where people like Kyler Murray and these new young quarterbacks that are going to make their first NFL debut, those that would take the NFL headlines, or just the news headlines, were stolen because that same day Antonio Brown goes, I think I'm going to retire. So here's Antonio Brown stealing the limelight again. And now, bringing it all back full circle, we're about to kick off the NFL football season with the Packers and the Packers and the Bears. And again, he steals the limelight by tweeting that letter that I read about a letter to him from Mike Mayock, the person that he got in a fight with. And the picture is on his Instagram story. The picture says, when your own team want to hate, but there's no stopping me now. Devil is a lie. Everyone got to pay this year, so we clear. At Raiders. Dude, this is a team sport. And if I'm on your team, I'm disgusted that I have to share a locker room with you. Just because you did that alone. Some things need to stay in the locker room. And then you wonder why on Hard Knocks, your team's making fun of your damn helmet for looking like a Power Ranger helmet. Like, nobody wants that community that makes football so special, this family that builds. You're the monkey wrench in it all. And how do you get excited about someone like that? And I'm really laughing at all you people in fantasy that picked him because, like, what?
Stayed away from that guy.
On purpose. And I'll be honest with you, I stayed away from Le'Veon because I don't know what to expect, and that was a dumb choice because he's about to blow up this year, right? I'm expecting it. And you as a Jets guy, you agree.
I'd hope.
Yeah.
I know injuries are a thing in his, his path, but hopefully not this year.
But it's just amazing how much of an issue this one guy has been for a team. And...
2 teams.
Yeah, for 2 teams. Now...
I mean, the Steelers cleared themselves of a head case. I mean, they got rid of him, and...
All right, I'm a devil's advocate, Zach, and I'm going to make you answer this. You're going to have to answer this question because I know you agree with me. I want to see how you approach it. Now, the hippie liberal's going to come to you and go... This is a hell of a headache, is it not? It's pretty bad. And they're about to suspend him. They're about to use the player agreement that says, what was it? I can't remember the term, the catch-all that they used. Conduct detrimental to the club. Do you think he's getting legitimate apprehension by the team? and yet he isn't kicked off the team. Like, he'll be back after some games, 4 maximum. All we know from this article is that he's getting suspended at least this weekend. We know he isn't playing this weekend, but we don't know how many weeks he'll be suspended. So, Zach, I need you to address, do you think this conduct, detrimental to the club, is worse or not as bad as Kaepernick's kneel and pig socks?
Well, two different, I guess, theaters. The one's like an actual legitimate issue. The one's a guy being a psychopath. I mean, I'm not saying Colin Kaepernick's not a psychopath. That's not what I said. But he actually like had something that I think he believed in. He might have been doing it for also attention. I don't know. But there could be an argument that he believed in it, whereas Antonio Brown, he didn't believe in shit. He's full of shit. At least Kaepernick did think he was doing something right. I mean, now at this point, there's the Nike endorsements. There's, I could have played for a team, but I didn't want to. So, I mean, as time goes on, it looks like maybe he didn't actually have a cause. He was doing the attention.
So I think the devil's advocate wins in this one, right? Why is it? I've been of the camp that Colin Kaepernick hasn't had a job because he's...
Wants the attention.
No. He doesn't have a job in the NFL because he's no longer good enough, right? He was a third string, didn't want to be a third string, so he quit and sued. Maybe that isn't legitimate. Maybe he wasn't as detrimental to the club as we thought he was, or as the league wanted us to think he was, because that was the basis, is he was detrimental to... I mean, let's be honest. He didn't violate any CBA agreements because he wasn't on a team to violate it. What happened was collusion. Nobody picked him up. But what's funny is, again, this doesn't answer the question because we don't know. Did Colin Kaepernick not get a job in the NFL because he didn't want to be third string, or because the league didn't, all the owners got together, colluded against him, and kicked him out?
I don't know. There's rumors that there were offers offering him starting jobs.
Well, we know he had an offer from Denver. Starting jobs as well?
There were no clarified teams or whatever, but there were rumors that he was offered starting jobs. So I mean,
so then again, it's Colin Kaepernick choosing it because he didn't get the payday he wanted. Mm-hmm. So okay, but again, keeping all of that out of it being his personal choice or him not being good enough, I really don't think his conduct was more detrimental to any club that it could have been, right? Like, even the Browns, who had nobody, picked him up but they didn't because they didn't want the circus. I still don't think any of his conduct would have been as detrimental to the club as Antonio Brown has been just this summer. Agree or disagree?
I mean, with the one guy you could still play. This guy's assaulting people, so I mean, Kaepernick didn't assault anyone. So I mean, I guess from a
No,
literal
not even just someone, the GM.
From a literal standpoint, I mean, he's more detrimental if he's hurting people, but I mean,
or attempting to.
I think on like a nationwide perspective, I mean, Kaepernick obviously is going to cause a lot more stir. But as far as a person-to-person basis, Antonio Brown is, if you're going to hit people and Vontaze Burfict's holding you back, I mean, this is a guy that threw you at someone, so obviously, I mean, the guy's got issues, but that's beyond.
Well, guys, okay, before we got the last segment, things to ponder. We're going to do that real quick, but I hope you enjoyed the NFL kickoff this tonight, and, I hope you enjoyed it yesterday, but, man, am I excited. Football's going to be great. It's going to be awesome watching the Raiders suck because no one likes the Bay, and it really sucks that the Steelers got rid of that cancer because I loved watching him suck them dry. But moving on to the last of the bit. All right, so things to ponder. I just make notes of questions that I want answers to, things to ponder. Zach, can we get to the bottom of this? Is there an age where you can no longer bring a mitt to a baseball game? Because I sure as hell don't want there to be.
I I mean, I've seen a grown man throw a mitt into a baseball stadium with, like, pencils on it, and he's, like, maneuvering the pencils to grab the ball in the stadium. So, I mean, I don't know.
You're joking.
No, you can do some creative things.
Wait,
I mean,
what level of play was this? Was this, like, minor league?
it was probably, like, AAA or AA or something. It wasn't, like, the MLB. I mean, I think there were videos of him at the MLB. The specific one that I was shown, it was like the guy created some contraption where it's a mitt with pencils. You swing it in. There's a ball. You kind of like rope it over. It grabs the ball and you bring it to you and you got a ball. And I mean, that's a grown ass man. There ain't no kid doing that. So I mean, I don't care.
Wait, but at the same time, you would get arrested if you did that in an MLB game because of the contract you have on your ticket that does not allow you to put anything on the field. Right?
Hey, if you get away with it, you get away with it.
You will not get away with that in an MLB game. I'm letting you people know right now. That ends for you. You will see the inside of a concrete box if you do that, at least for the night. But aside from contraptions you throw on the field, is there ever an age that you are too old to bring a mitt to the stadium? And I sure as hell don't want there to be.
I mean, I guess if you have, like, severe arthritis or something and you can't put it on your hand, I mean, I guess, like, obviously you're too old.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, okay, I love being... The past couple years, I've never caught a ball recently, and yet I'm always so excited and amped walking in the game, with my mitt, like, man, and dude, when at the home run derby, literally, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a ball, and I just barely missed it. My dad he's like, you missed the ball. I'm like, I know, dude, you don't need to make this worse. But I was so excited that is something I live for. Now, again, in past podcasts, I've definitely emphasized my animosity towards me catching a ball and the crowd going, give it to the closest little retard. Like, no, I'm going to keep the ball because I caught it and I love it. I'm not going to give it to some 4-year-old because that 4-year-old can grow up and catch their own ball, right? So, as somebody who's selfish and does not want to see the end of my ability to get a baseball at a baseball game, because I love going to ball games and I love getting the balls at the ball games, and then also as somebody who thinks they're going to be better at catching a ball because I'm older, would it look weird to the crowd had my dad brought a mitt and I brought a mitt? Is it like, oh man, only your kid should have it? Or is it like, no, hell, all the adults should have them. Because instead, my other option is to have a beer in one hand and be that guy that destroys his hand. You ever see those people that just break their palm because they tried palming a baseball and it splats their hand? And most of the time, they don't even get to keep the ball because they lost it. So, as somebody who wants to be 35 with a mitt or 40 with a mitt, will I be able to pull that off? Or are we setting a standard of, at some age, you got to get rid of it?
I don't know. I went to a Yankees game over the summer, and I saw some granddads with their mitts. They're like, oh. And then, like, everyone's like, oh, it's so cute. There's an old guy with a mitt. And he's like, oh. And like, it's a, I don't care.
So, my next question is...
It's a show. Who knows?
So, my next question is, are baseball mitts like diapers, where you only get them as a kid, and you only get them as you're ancient when you're about to die?
Yeah, it's like toy trains. When you're a little kid, you love toy trains, and when you're a 90-year-old man, you love toy trains. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know.
David, are you about to set the precedent that I need to stop at some point and revisit the mitt when I'm older?
Yeah, it might be just like toy trains. When you're 95, bring out the mitt.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to emphasize Zach doesn't have an answer, and my answer is you're never too old to have a mitt, and damn it, bring it. Enjoy the game. Because
95.
The only people that aren't enjoying the game are the little girls on their iPhones getting hit by foul balls. So bring your mitt, you won't get hit by a ball, and it might give you something to get excited about. So the last thing to ponder, Zach, before I explain my question, I want a response. You ever notice that we treat babies like bumper stickers? Let me explain. So I was scrolling and I saw a picture of a baby, of a friend or someone, and the shirt, the onesie, said, "Let's avocado." And it had a real cute caricature cartoon of an avocado with like stick figure arms and like, whee! So, you ever notice we use babies as bumper stickers? We cover them in bumper stickers. It's like, this baby has no clue what's on its chest, and we just have, like, the worst acronyms and, just like the worst things we could think, my kid. And it's like we use these kids as bumper stickers.
Yeah, it's like the little kid wearing the shirt, my dad's number one. Like, who the hell said your dad's number one? I mean, 3 years from now, he could neglect you, shove you in a hole. I don't know what the hell he's going to do to you, but not my problem.
And yet baby...
you're out there going, dad's number one. Well,
and every baby is dad's number one. Their dad is number one.
They should fight over it. I mean, I don't put the babies in a ring or something. No, I'm not condoning that.
I think we should have a Thunderdome of babies to figure out who gets to avocado. I mean, whose dad's number one.
There you go.
Yeah, oh, and last question, Zach, because this is one I'm going to bring up in other podcasts because I'm real curious. So I'm watching Euphoria. I don't know if you've ever seen it on HBO. It's a pretty good show.
I heard there's way too many dicks in it. Ain't
there's definitely a lot of penises.
Ain't interested.
There's a lot. But then it goes the other way as well. But like Game of Thrones, the penises definitely outweigh the boobs.
Floppy ween.
But in the show, at the end of the finale, none of this has to do with the story, so it literally doesn't matter. But some hooded guy, you don't find out who it is until later, robs this doctor, and he goes, "Give me all the money." And the doctor's in his own home. Down the hall is a kid looking at him. And the doctor literally has this drawer full of money, just full of stacks of cash. And then at the back of it is a pistol. So he's sitting there filling up the guy, and the whole time he's looking at the gun. Then he picks the gun up, and he's freaking out. He's like, oh, and then the guy's like, "You shouldn't have done that." And then pistol whips him and just beats the guy to a pulp in front of his kid as he tried to make the heroic move. So my question for you that I thought of when I was watching this is, in real life, in a situation where you ever find yourself at gunpoint, guy puts a gun to your head and says, "Give me the money." Do you comply or stand your ground or at some respect try to be the hero and do something? What do we do? Gun to your head, give me the money. You're either a deli clerk at the cash register, you're in your home, somebody's robbing you. What are you going to do? Gun to your head, how are you approaching this situation?
Just do it.
You do? Comply?
Just do it.
I think so.
Don't give him the money, don't do anything, just say, "If you want to blow my brains out, blow my brains out."
Wait, now so stand your ground.
No, I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing there and saying, "Go for it." I'm not standing my ground, and I'm not giving him anything. I'm saying, "Do what you want."
And what happens when you get shot?
I'm dead.
So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Not my problem. I'm not there to deal with it.
So the verdict is comply, or don't comply.
Just be there.
Just be there. And see how... Yo! Oh, man. I don't know if I can put it on YouTube. So either I'm going to put it right here. All right, so turns out we were able to actually get the video. So immediately the two workers, the bartenders react, and they just drop and hit the deck, and then the rest of the customers follow. And nobody wastes a second.
Except for cigarette guy. He knows that he needs a cigarette.
But I love that this guy continues scrolling on his phone. He ain't budging. Then the guy tries taking his phone, and he fights back. He ain't budging. And then the robber knows just to quit and move on. He just keeps going.
Here he comes around. The guy's like, "Nope, not me."
The other guy left his phone up top. Look at the video going on in his phone. And then he sparks a cigarette.
He needs to keep healthy during this,
Healthy?
Healthy cigarettes keep you healthy.
So here we are. The guy next to him finally grows some nads and gets up next to him. And the robber's back again, and he's got the gun to his back. So this is the question I was asking. Like, what do you do? This guy coughs up his wallet without a second thought. The guy's like, "Empty the wallet." And look at he just throws it. The other guy just keeps smoking a cig.
He went to the bar. It was his day to go to the bar, and he ain't joking around. He's enjoying his beer.
So later we skip forward, and here's the bartender just coughing up the cash register. Look at the guy next to him, hands up, smoking a cig. The other guy doesn't budge. The other guy's ready to submit, and that guy
He's calling him out. Hey, you. I would love to know what he's saying. Like, yeah, buzz off, you bitch.
So I think your point's got a lot of validity that we've got this video that just came out, and here's two guys that just literally sat at the bar, kept smoking their cigarette, and had their drink, and were not moving, complying, or doing anything. So I think you're probably right. That's probably the move. Dang. And, hey guys, just playing statistics, at least 5 out of 10 times your head's getting blown off. But roll the dice you could roll the dice like Zach. But now I don't know where my answer comes out. I know that I'm a pussy, and I'm going to cry and be like, and I'm not going to literally cry, but I'm going to be really, 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 really scared and probably just comply. That I'd rather have my life than whatever cash I got. But that's the pussy move. And I'm starting to think that if I stood my ground and was like, no, I am going to stand, then nothing comes of it. Damn. So your answer is not do anything. I want to hope I can do that. But I'm going to be frank, and I don't think I can. I think I comply. So, in the world where I'm not a total bitch, I'm not going to comply. But I'm also not going to be that guy that's like, shoot me, puts a gun to his head like, yeah, I dare you, because that ain't happening either, man.
No, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this one throughout the podcast. I'm curious. But, hey, guys. Thanks for watching. We had a lot of fun. I'm already missing part of the game thanks to you guys, so I hope you enjoyed. But let's get ready. I hope Aaron Rodgers shows up, doesn't pick up where he left off in last season, because he wasn't doing it.
As far as I heard, he's not showing up right now, so...
Really? You checking? Where we at?
I don't know. I just know that he's not doing great.
Man... And we saw that coming, too. Like, the way last season played out, we should have known. But anyway, we're going to see I think you're going to see a great team out of the Bears. But, hey, guys, we're not going to know until we watch the games. Enjoy this Sunday. The Browns are ready to debut. And I don't think you guys are ready for it. I'm excited. Who cares about the Jets?
They're going to go all the way.
But thanks, guys. Thank you for listening. I do really appreciate it. Like I said, I really, really beg of you, please share. If you laughed at all, if anything, as much as I rambled and made no sense, and we just scratched the surface of some really great topics. If you enjoyed it at all, please share. I can't stress how important that is. A like is great too. If you can like us, I appreciate it. And please subscribe. But again, please share if you laughed at all, if you enjoyed our conversation, and we're looking forward to catching you next week. So thanks, guys. Peace.